Hey guys, welcome. We're back. Welcome to another episode of the Fins Faithful podcast. Thanks for joining us on another Monday evening. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Of course, we're live with you guys as always on YouTube. Make sure you hit that thumbs up, that subscribe, all the good stuff. Keep flooding the chat. It's been great. The support's been great lately. And also the comments below on the video. I love reading them after the show. Thank you guys for the continued support. So now that all the paperwork and business is done, let's get into a little fun. Training camp is here. Rookies are in the house. Vets report tomorrow. Media, I think, watches the 23rd is the first day they go out there. 26th to the public. So we're ready to rock and roll. You smell the fresh grass. Enough of the speculation. We can finally talk about some stuff on the field. And we're going to break down preview a little training camp preview, put everything in a box and put a little bow on it, and kind of give you guys, we think, to keep an eye on, some position battles and kind of the top storylines going to camp. And this is a very special show because not only do I have my co-host Jason Sarney as always, but I have Miami Dolphins columnist and writer Chris Perkins. Chris was here in the beginning last year when I first started this show. His second time. Perk, I can't thank you enough. How you doing this evening?
Oh, man, I'm ready. I'm back from vacation, went and hung out with one of my boys in Hilton Head and Savannah. So, yeah, baby, the lowlands, the low country there, baby. So, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to start some camp and see what's going on with this team.
Yeah. Jason, how are you, man? Are you ready?
Well, like I told Chris in the backstage, I'm ready to get hurt again. You know, let's bring it on. We're ready to roll.
I love it. I love it, baby.
All right. I guess let's start here. I always like to start when we're going into a new season. When they touched the field last year, talent-wise, versus now where they're at today, they've obviously lost some veteran guys, whether it's via trade, via going somewhere else in Campbell, or trade with Ramsey, Smith, Armstead retiring. A lot of veterans and a lot of leaders. Some of those guys leaders left, and it seems like Perk. I don't know if stop me if I'm wrong here. A lot of young guys they're relying to replace them this year. How do you feel about the overall talent level hitting the field this week versus last season?
Overall talent level is down. I mean, let's not try to joke about it. You lost some key players, right? You mentioned Teron Armstead at left tackle, Calais Campbell at defensive tackle, Jalen Ramsey at one corner, Kendall Fuller at the other corner, Javon Holland at safety, Jonnu Smith at tight end, Raheem Mostert at running back. A lot of familiar faces are gone. They have upgraded at safety. We'll take Minka over Javon Holland, right? But you're weak at the cornerbacks. We'll see what happens at defensive tackle with Kenneth Grant replacing Calais Campbell. We'll see what happens at left tackle with Patrick Paul replacing Teron. Hopefully, they've got the guard situation addressed with Jonas Avainaya coming in there, and we'll see what the rookie second-round pick can do. Look, I told you guys, and I've written this before, and I've tweeted it. I've got them as a 9-win team right now going into training camp. Now, that's not an accomplishment. I'm not sure that 9 wins gets you in the playoffs. It did in 2022. It wouldn't have last year. We'll see if I alter that number, but your talent is down overall, but that does not mean that you're not a playoff team. I think the Dolphins could win 10 or 11 games if things break the right way.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jason.
With all the veterans out, the Dolphins became considerably younger, but that also breeds competition in camp. Is there a specific camp battle positionally that you're looking forward to watching?
Oh, Jason, look, it's got to be cornerback, right? I think that Storm Duck, I don't know that they have a number 2 cornerback on this roster. We know they don't have a number 1 because Jalen Ramsey left. Dolphins fans know what a number 1 cornerback looks like, right? You can go back to Sam Madison and Pat Surtain. You can go to Brent Grimes, Xavier Howard, Byron Jones had a cup of coffee as a number 1 corner. Jalen Ramsey comes in. So Dolphins fans know what quality cornerback play looks like. I don't know that there's nobody out there to me, Asante Samuel, Stephon Gilmore, Rasul Douglas. They're not number 1 corners. They would be good number 2s opposite Jalen Ramsey. They're not number 1. So I'm looking at Storm Duck making a move at one of those boundary positions. I like what he showed last year, the undrafted rookie out of Louisville. He seems to have the good short memory. He seems to have the good physical skills. There's guys out there at the cornerback position, whether you're talking Cam Smith or Sheffield or anybody who they might have drafted or just acquired. But I'm looking at Storm Duck overtaking somebody and winning a starting cornerback position. That's probably the guy I'm really looking at most.
Got to add a follow-up here with you going cornerback. Dolphins fans, we love ourselves some undrafted free agent corners. A lot of them this year. Maybe a couple of guys that might catch an eye. Is there any potential undrafted free agent cornerback who could crack the roster?
Look, Ethan Bonner has been here for a while, but he's still undrafted, just like Kader Kohu was undrafted. So I could see Ethan Bonner making a move. What's our guy from UCF? BJ Adams, right?
BJ Adams,
yeah. So he could do something. I think he could do something. I saw him do a little something at the Senior Bowl. Admittedly, I've not watched a lot of his film from UCF at this point. But I'm thinking B.J. Adams might be able to do something. And as you say, they have had some success with undrafted corners. When you look at Nick Needham and Kader Kohu, both recently, Needham, his success didn't last for long, but he was there as an undrafted guy out of UTEP, as I recall, Texas El Paso. So, I could look for Bonner or B.J. Adams to kind of make something as an undrafted, make some hay.
Shout out to everybody in the chat, Finn's Tailgate, Dive Bar, Jake, Cap, everybody. If I missed you, guys, thank you. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell. It only takes a second. We appreciate all the support. Again, we're joined with our training camp preview by Chris Perkins, Dolphins columnist and writer for the Sun Sentinel. All right, I guess let's just stick with the corner. I had the cornerback down the list, but since we're already there, there's a group of young guys, and there's obviously the talk. I think Barry Jackson reported today the Dolphins are negotiating Rasul Douglas.
Yep.
I'm sure that's no surprise to anybody. My question is, there's a group of young guys. Which of those guys you like the best? And then my second part is, I think Cater's a starting corner. Is the other starting corner on this roster today?
I don't think the other starting corners on the roster. And I think that really their preference would be to keep Cater in the slot. They might not have a choice. He might have to move out to the boundary just because he's the best option out there. If you had Cater and Rasul Douglas, that wouldn't be bad. What you don't want is a cornerback where they're going to continually pick on him because he's the weak link. To me, it's different if you're going to continually throw at somebody because they're not Jalen Ramsey or because they're not Xavier Howard. That's just your best option. When you pick on somebody because they're the weak link, I think that's different. And so that's what you want to avoid if you're the Dolphins, is putting somebody out there who is just constantly going to get picked on because teams know that he can't handle the matchup. So, look, as far as the cornerback position, they've got to – and look, and I trust Anthony Weaver to be able to do some stuff. I think the defensive front seven with the pass rush, obviously you need Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips to stay healthy. You need Chop to make some improvement. But I think with Minka in the back, there are ways to ease the load on those cornerbacks, but those corners must be able to play and hold their own to a certain extent. That's an absolute necessity.
Yeah. Well, I guess, would you say the biggest storyline heading into camp is the Sealer situation with Zach? I think I have the quote here. Drew was on Sports Extra last night. I'll quote him here. We haven't talked much publicly about his situation by design. That will be internal between myself and Zach and the Dolphins. Zach will be at training camp Tuesday when players convene. History, Zach's type, the history doesn't bode well for him right now. Okay.
No.
Hunt was gone, Wilkins,
Yep.
Smith. It seems like they made mistakes on extending the guys because they were like the high-end talent, and they were afraid to lose them because they're hard to replace. But he seems on paper, he is 30, but he's a guy they got off the practice squad, developed him themselves. He's a homegrown guy. They stole him off. I think it was the Ravens practice squad, developed him. Double-digit sack guy in the interior. They're really the only proven guy they have in the interior. So on paper, it looks like, okay, this should be done. Perk, why isn't it done? And how do you see this playing out, at least this training camp and offseason?
I see a couple of things going on here, and Jason mentioned that they're trying to get younger, right? This is, I've written that they're on plan B here. Plan A, the win now with the veterans, it didn't work out. They're on plan B now, win with young players and draftees. So that's one impediment to signing Zach Sealer. The other thing I think is, what do you want to pay 31 and 32-year-old Zach Sealer? Paying 30-year-old Zach Sealer $18 million a year, I don't have a problem with that. When he's 31 and 32 and he doesn't have Christian Wilkins or Calais Campbell there beside him, he'll have Kenneth Grant. What is that Zach Sealer going to look like? And does that go in with your plan of trying to get younger? You're going to have some 30-somethings, right? Every team has to have some key 30-somethings. Is Zach Sealer the one you want to have? And you guys know, look, you mentioned, George, all the people who got away, whether it's Wilkins or Rob Hunt. Devon Achane is looking at this very carefully to see how are they going to treat me when it's my turn. They let Javon Holland go. They let all these guys go. They did re-sign Jalen Waddle. We'll see what happens with Jalen Phillips. He's playing on his fifth-year option. That's a little different situation because he's had injuries. But, yeah, Zach Sealer, how much do you want to guarantee, and what do you want to pay a 31, 32-year-old Zach Sealer? To me, that alongside the plan of getting younger and playing with draftees, those would be kind of the two major holdups to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody, it'd shock if he left, but,
right.
They did draft 3 young guys.
Yep.
He is 30. But I just think this is the type of guy you have to keep. You can't just get you could make an argument. Jonnu Smith, I always thought, look, Jonnu benefited a lot for how the defense was playing last year and how he is more valuable to the Dolphins than probably any other team in the league. And I don't think you're going to see close to these numbers when he goes to Pittsburgh, right? But I wouldn't pay him $12 million a year. So you could sell me on that, right? What the replacement is. We'll talk about the tight end position. But, I don't know. I just think Zach is and Wilkins I wouldn't have paid either, but, Zach's the guy you got to pay. It's strange to me that it hasn't got done. You know what I mean? If you're a betting man, by the start of the season, does Zach have a new contract?
I think he does because, look, Zach is, to me right now, Zach is the most important player on that defense. And that's with all due respect to Minka, to Chubb, to Phillips, to Chop. Zach is healthy, and Zach has produced. He's got skins on the wall from the last 2 years. Chubb has been injured. Phillips has been injured. Chop is young. Minka is in his first year with the team. Jordan Brooks is an inside linebacker, so his influence, while big, it's limited. Zach is the man on defense right now. You got to take care of Zach. He's essential personnel. You've got to have him out there for game one. I am expecting a bit of a hold-in. So he'll report and he just won't go through all the drills and all that kind of stuff. But I expect by week 1, Zach Sealer has a new contract. I have no idea what it's going to look like, how much will be guaranteed, but I would find it almost impossible to believe that they could go into week 1 with Zach Sealer not having a contract and being upset about the situation.
George referenced the 3 young guys. They double and triple down after Kenneth Grant in the draft. What's the overall depth of this defensive line look like? And is there excitement for your Jordan Phillips, your Zeke Biggers of the world out there? Yeah, no, Jason, there is excitement for those guys. Your overall depth is kind of shaky right now. We don't know what's there. There's a lot of unproven quantities, right? We know what's there in Zach Sealer. We know what's there in Benito Jones. Benito, if you had to give him a grade, he's probably a C starter, right? He's kind of, very, very average. But yeah, your depth is coming from a lot of younger players. You mentioned Jordan Phillips and Zeke Biggers, 5th and 7th round picks. And then Kenneth Grant, your 1st round pick. So that's pretty much your quality depth right there. And it's unproven at the NFL level. There will be some other camp bodies and some other guys in there. But as far as the guys that you're thinking we're going to roll with these guys right now, yeah, it's Zach Sealer and the younger guys. The depth is a question mark. But I think that
with everything around that depth. And again, Anthony Weaver, what have they been in run defense the last 2 years? Like 9th and 7th or whatever it's been. I trust that Anthony Weaver and Jordan Brooks and Zach Sealer, they can get those young guys to where they need to be as far as run defense. We'll see, how many snaps they're able to play per game. But I think the run defense and those young guys, I'm encouraged about the front seven. I really am. I think there's some good possibilities there.
Yeah, I think the front seven I think their plan, I was told their plan was, hey, front seven, we're going to create pressure, relieve. We might not need $20 million, $18 million on each side. And that's different. Chris Greer's MO is corner, whether it's free agency or the draft. So, that'll be interesting.
When we talk about depth, I think a problem the last few years was the quarterback depth. Now, we don't want to go into QB2 world here, but has that position improved and has the overall depth of the quarterback room improved in your mind?
Oh, Jason, it better. And look, hey, and let's face it, a lot of this is also on Mike McDaniel, right? So we can talk Zach Wilson here. We had a rough time in New York, but we've seen some quarterbacks have rough times in New York. The infrastructure is not great. The talent around you is not great. And so it's not a surprise to see a quarterback not do well as a high draft pick rookie coming into the Jets system. What I mean, so we'll see on Zach Wilson. He looked okay during OTAs and minicamp, and what I saw was a guy who was learning fairly quickly. Now, it was a very limited time that media got to see him, but I thought that he learned pretty quickly from his mistakes. And when you talk to the backup quarterbacks that have been here, whether it's been Snoop Huntley or Tim Boyle, C.J. Beathard here for a cup of coffee, Skylar Thompson, they'll talk about how different it is playing quarterback here. They want that ball out of your hands quickly. And so Darrell Bevell, the backup, the quarterback coach, and Frank Smith, the offensive coordinator, are always right there. Get rid of the ball, get rid of the ball, get rid of the ball. That's very different for these quarterbacks. And then the footwork is different. So that's on Zach. We'll see what he does there. When I talk about Mike McDaniel, you guys know that one of the complaints, whether it's been Skylar, Teddy Bridgewater, Tim Boyle, Snoop Huntley, is that they're running an offense that's designed for Tua and that thrives on the things, the quick release, the quick read. You've got to kind of change the offense a little bit and make a Snoop Huntley offense. You've got to make a Zach Wilson package. And so we'll see if Mike McDaniel has learned from that. You guys know they brought in Bobby Slowick as the senior pass game coordinator. We'll see what kind of changes he makes for Zach Wilson. I think, probably Slowick's big thing is find out a way we can go back to getting the ball to Tyreek and to Jalen Waddle, and we can solve this, too high safety mystery. But with Zach Wilson, Slowick has got to be instrumental in making this offense more Zach Wilson friendly. And so we'll see. And look, and you guys know this also, Tua has been hurt in 2 Septembers under Mike McDaniel, and I think 3 Septembers in his career. I think he had the finger injury. So in September, so Zach Wilson had better be ready right out of the gate, first month of the year. This can't be a Chop Robinson where it takes you 8 games to get your feet under you. Zach has got to be ready immediately, because that's kind of what Tua's injury history has been, is that you might see an injury in September. So Zach's got to be ready, and they've got to have a Zach Wilson package and offense ready right from jump.
Yeah, shout out to everybody in the chat. Again, we're with Chris Perkins from the Sun Sentinel, breaking down and previewing Miami Dolphins training camp. If you guys are watching anywhere else, come on over to YouTube. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and that little bell. You mentioned something with the quarterbacks, and I was actually encouraged when I heard Zach say this. Like, I think, this is a rhythm-based offense. I always say it's like rehearsing a play. And I think now I like some of the stuff Zach said that they're telling him to do, because it seems like they're now putting emphasis also on the backup quarterback to do that stuff. Like, not just, they're bringing in guys who have a skill set. If it's, whether you like Quinn Ewers or Zach, they have good arm talent. They have good arm action. They can get the ball out quick. And they're teaching them, hey, this is how I want it faster. Like, I guess the problem with before is, and you would know better than anybody, Perk, is Tua would take all the reps. There's no reps for the backup quarterbacks.
Right.
So, and everything is based on what you see on Sunday is how they practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and how they timed everything. And you see it on the field. So I'm encouraged by that. Do you think they're putting more emphasis? I don't know if it's the addition of Slowick now of getting the backup quarterbacks. Maybe it's just because they have guys that the skill set they like now, but more emphasis of, hey guys, you got to do a lot of this stuff in the offense. This is what we want. More emphasis on that.
It's got to be. Look, this is year 4 of the McDaniel program, and so they've got to show what they've learned in the first 3 years. And one of those things is bringing in an offense specifically for that quarterback, you know, whether it's Teddy Bridgewater, Skylar Thompson, Tim Boyle, whoever. So there's got to be that Zach Wilson thing. And like you say, George, he's got to get some reps. And so that you guys know now the way training camp is that your starters get most of their work in joint practices. Pretty much the regular practices and the preseason games are left to the backups. And so I expect heavy Zach Wilson in practice during training camp, the regular days, in the preseason games. Quinn Ewers will get his looks, but remember, Zach Wilson is their hand-picked guy. McDaniel and Greer told us that, so there's not going to be a QB2 competition. I would be shocked if there is. You know, maybe there should be one. But this Zach Wilson is your backup quarterback. And, you know, the other thing that, in talking to these quarterbacks last year, is that I talked to them about being in this Shanahan system. And, you know, that's kind of what Zach Wilson got, right, with the New York Jets. And of course, Skylar Thompson was brought up in it since he was a Dolphins draftee. But Tim Boyle had some experience in it, and Snoop Huntley had a little exposure to it. And so that kind of gives Zach Wilson a little bit of a leg up. He's kind of familiar with what the demands are of this offense, how you run it. And so that should also give them a leg up in developing a better backup quarterback. But, man, if they don't have backup quarterback solved by now, you're going to lose a lot of faith in them and their ability to learn and their ability to teach and put what they've learned into action. There's almost no excuse for the backup quarterback not to keep them at 500 this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's everybody talks about the offensive line, which is bad, but like arguably it was just because they didn't make the playoffs because their backups weren't capable,
right?
You know, and again, McDaniel has a lot of blame on his plate. You have to be able to adjust and build towards your personnel. So, I couldn't agree more. And you mentioned something, and it's one of the biggest points you always made, and I agree with. We actually mentioned it on our show. You talked running back. You talked how do they open up this offense and kind of get Tyreek and Jalen Waddle involved. It's very simple. Run the football. And not just run the football, not even 23 when they had 5 yards per carry. Right. Style over substance. They need substance in this running game. And I think my personal opinion is stop relying so much on the outside zone, the inside zone or a gap scheme. You can mix it a little bit in, but not only that, because we did a piece. Jalen Wright actually is better inside. People have this misconception that he was an outside zone runner, and I did some film study, and he actually was not comfortable on the outside. He wasn't decisive. He didn't stretch things out when he was supposed to, or when he didn't come back when he was supposed to. So, with the addition of Gordon and the 2 guards, I'm hoping they finally kind of go to more of a power scheme. But my question, I'll let you kind of get on your point that you always say is style over substance. They need more meat on the bone running game, but also who is the backup to A-Chain? You know, that's a 2-part question.
I like the thinking. When I see them get Ollie Gordon, Alexander Madison, and they've already got Jalen Wright there, as you mentioned, you see a little bit more bulk. You see a little bit more muscle. You see a couple of options there. As far as Jalen Wright, look, I don't know why he didn't get more carries last year after that New England game where he rushes for 86 yards.
Yes.
And then the dude just disappears. They go back to Raheem Mostert, and it's like, what are y'all doing?
And Perk, go back and watch that. A lot of the runs were inside.
Inside, right? Yeah, he showed some force, right?
Yeah.
And so you guys know, just like you mentioned, George, I want to see a running game that's got some force. I want to see some power. I want to see this offensive line knock some guys on their butt. I want to see this offense impose their will on some defenses that, like, look, it's the middle of the second quarter, but we're about to have a 12-play drive, and like 7 of these plays are going to be running plays. First down, second down. We're not waiting till third down. We're coming right at you. We're going to make you drop that 8th man into the box, and now we're going to go over the top with Tyreek and Waddle. And so that's really one of the things I want to see the run game do is be able to use some force, some aggression, some physicality, impose your will on the defense, break their freaking spirit, and then make them drop that eighth man in the box. Now it's not so much too high safety. You go over the top and you just crush these teams. They can't defend you.
It's the only thing that's going to – it's what everybody says, why didn't they go deep? I think they did rely too much. I always said they relied on the fastball. Teams caught up with the 97-mile-an-hour fastball.
Yep.
They were sitting on it. Now you develop a little bit of a curveball. You added Jonnu Smith, but then you just start – you didn't throw the fastball at all. You know? Exactly. So that goes one to the other. So Mike's got to develop something, and the reason is these teams – if you watch the too high – everybody's been playing too high forever. But the linebackers are 4 or 5 yards deep.
Right.
They're coming back, and you still can't run the ball in 4 and 5 man boxes. You're not going to be able to pass the ball deep, even with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. That's the thing, is the running game. And how did my last question on the running backs? The little bit you've seen of Ollie Gordon, how does he look? Is he quick? That's the question. How does he look out there? Just your first impressions of him physically.
I think he looks pretty good. You know, it's hard to tell about these physical positions when in OTAs and minicamp they weren't in pads. So the running backs and the linemen, what you're really looking for is, you know, footwork and balance, and can they hit the hole? Can they bounce it outside? What are they showing you from that standpoint? I like what I saw from Ollie Gordon from that standpoint. He had good feet. He's got good size. He's got good speed for his size. We saw him in college. The dude is a baller. Like he can do what you need him to do. Will he show that once the pads come on, and will he get that opportunity? Again, we know what Achane can do. We know Madison's role, right? He's going to be the short yardage guy. I wouldn't expect him to be getting a lot of first and second down carries, expecting, 4 yards, 5 yards a carry.
Right.
Who between Jalen Wright and Ollie Gordon wins a regular role in the offense, and what is that role? I hope that role is, like you say, running between the tackles with some force and some aggression, because then, you have them as the change up from Achane. You have some variety. You have some offensive options. You have a reason to make them bring that eighth guy into the box. And it makes Tua's life easier, right? It makes Mike McDaniel's life easier as a play caller. And we know these offensive linemen want to do some role grading a little bit, right? They want to show what they can do. And so I think if you establish that run game, and if you have that number 2 running back, it helps on so many levels.
Clown Prince, shout out to the question, and it segues great into the wide receiver room. The last couple of years after Tyreek and Jalen, there's no third or fourth option in the wide receiver room. It's Achane. It was Jonnu Smith. But now you got Malik Washington going into second year. You got Nick Westbrook, Akine. So What is the dynamic in the receiver room, and what's your confidence level with the entire group?
Good question, Clown Prince 21. It's you know what? It's a 2-man receiver room right now, and that's Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. Nick Westbrook Akine was kind of invisible in the fall. In the OTAs and the mini camp. He picked it up in mini camp, but throughout OTAs he was kind of invisible. But there's a lot of X factors there, right? He has no familiarity with Tua. Tua was throwing mostly to Waddle with no Jonnu and no Tyreek out there. So we don't know. Zach Wilson doesn't know Westbrook Akine. Westbrook Akine doesn't know the offense. So I want to see if he can emerge as that big receiver, that big-bodied receiver, situationally, whether it's short yardage, goal line, red zone, whatever. I'm excited about Malik Washington. We all saw him last year, right? Malik is a tough kid, man. That dude, you can knock him around. We saw him knocked around on kickoff returns and punt returns, on receptions. That dude bounces back up. I love his toughness. I love his hands. I wish that he was a little bit bigger, but I really like what they've got in Malik. We'll see what Westbrook Akine can do, but it's kind of a thin receiver room. Look, we know that Tyreek doesn't get hurt. So Tyreek is going to be out there. He's only missed 1 game in the McDaniel era, and that was after that Tennessee game in 23. He missed that Jets game, the 30-0 win. Waddle goes for, 120, 130 that game. They won it 30-0. I'm happy with the first 2, with Waddle and with Tyreek. And to get to Clown Prince 21's real question about Waddle, Yeah, there's a little pressure on Jalen Waddle, but here's what I think about Jalen is that he's a solid number two. He's among the best number twos in the league with T. Higgins, Devontae Smith. I don't think Waddle is a number one. I don't think he'll ever be like the Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. He doesn't have that in him, but I think he's a consistent 1,000-yard receiver. And that's what he's shown us in his career. If he can get to, say, 1,200 yards this year and get back to doing what he does, this offense is very, very tough to defend because you do have Tyreek, you do have Waddle, you do have Tua throwing to him. You develop a run game, and it's really, I'm not expecting Waddle to be in his career like a 4 or 5 time Pro Bowl receiver. I expect Waddle to provide headaches for the defense. And as a number two, he is very capable of doing that. So I'm expecting Waddle to have a good year, but I don't expect him to take a leap to where, we all know Tyreek is going to count $58 million on the cap next year. He probably won't be here. I don't expect Waddle to jump in and be the 1,700-yard guy all of a sudden.
Yeah, shout out to the chat with the great questions and everybody watching. We got almost 100 people. Guys, if you're watching, come on over to YouTube. Hang out with us. This is a blast. Perk, Jason, and I, we're getting into the meat and potatoes here.
We're going to talk offensive line soon.
Yeah,
don't worry, everybody. Don't worry.
I love it. Good teaser, Jason.
I got to pull the wide receiver thread a little bit more.
O-line's coming. So
we'll
get your questions, Perk, if you're in the chat. If you got questions, Perk, if you're willing to answer them, throw the questions in the chat. Come on over here to YouTube. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that little bell. I know it's annoying. We keep asking, but it helps the algorithm and it helps help the show get noticed, and we appreciate that. I wrote us in the chat. Vice said that my mic sounded funny. Am I sound good? Okay,
good.
I'm good. All right. So I wanted a couple things on the receivers. You mentioned it's funny. You mentioned NWI. I call him.
Yep.
And I think my theory is that Malik actually fits better between the 20s as the third receiver in this team. Because, he gets to you can rely on him to get to the spot quicker. That's what this offense is too, is relying on the guy to be at a certain point. He's more twitch. He's more quick. I think, and you said, and I heard that he kind of struggled in camp, NWI. And then the red zone work started, and that's where he kind of got a little better. Yep. And I think that's where we're going to see his kind of development. But I want to ask Tyreek. I actually think Tyreek's going to have a bounce-back year. I know all the outside stuff and all that stuff, and I have my opinion on it all. But on the field, I actually think Tyreek's going to be fully healthy. Do you expect Tyreek to have a big year this year?
100%. Tyreek is a baller. Look, Tyreek is one of the best playmakers that I've ever covered. And this goes back to covering, the old Dolphins with Jason Taylor and Zach Thomas, Sam Madison, Pat Surtain, and I know they're on the defensive side of the ball. This goes to covering the Heat with Shaq and Dwayne Wade and LeBron. Tyreek is one of the best playmakers I have ever covered. This dude is special. This dude is unique. He has some knucklehead tendencies off the field. We all know that. On the field, whether
a little,
he's
just a little,
some knucklehead tendencies, a little bit. But on the field, in practice and in games, this dude is as money as I've ever seen a player. I'm expecting him to have a big game, and I know that I've heard that the over under on his yards on the Hard Rock app is 975. Are you freaking kidding me?
That sounds like free money.
Yeah, I would take the over in a second.
You know what's funny? I was doing my first fantasy football draft in one league. And I'm like, man, Tyreek's really low this year. And I picked him up in I don't even know what, like the 4th, 5th, 6th round or something like that. I'm thinking, man, people when he's healthy, man, he'd be ready to go. Because I don't know if there's 5 guys on the planet I've seen make plays like him on the football field. It's incredible. He's just at a different speed. It's whether I think he should be here because he's not going to be here long term and the whole culture and all that stuff. That's a different story. But there's no arguing on the field. He's different. I mean,
dude is different. The dude is money. And look, and when you talk about the culture, that's another thing. If we can go back to Zach Sealer, that's another reason they need to sign Zach Sealer. Right?
We love some culture talk. We love some.
He's what you want in culture. But with Tyreek, he creates so many headaches for the defense. I throw this stat out about Tyreek all the time. In the last 2 years, when Tyreek has had 100 or more yards, the Dolphins are 11-0, and they average 35 points per game. When he's 99 or fewer yards, they're 7-16 and average 18 points per game. Tyreek is a difference maker. It's not just what he does for himself, it's what he does for the entire offense. 35 points per game versus 18 points per game. This dude is a baller and a difference maker. We've seen him run the 100 meters twice, right? 10-1, 10-1-5. He had the drop problems in 23. I think he might have had 12 drops. He might have been like second in the league. He cut that down last year tremendously, even with the wrist injury. So, look, I'm looking for Tyreek. And look, Tyreek, we mentioned that he's going to count $58 million against the cap next year. He's got to prove that he can still be an effective receiver for the Dolphins and for everybody else out there. He's not playing for anybody at $58 million on the cap. But, you reduce that down and make it a little more manageable for the last 3 or 4 years of his career, however much longer Tyreek is playing. He's an effective receiver. And I'll tell you this also, George, about him and Jason. When we talk Tyreek, one of the things that Tyreek does better than anybody that I've ever covered, this dude can cut at full speed. Like he can be running like 80% and make a cut. Everybody else has to slow down to 50, 60%, get your feet right. Tyreek just cuts at full speed. He's so hard to defend. He's money. He's going to have a big year.
Yeah, and the real quick, and I know Jason wants to bring some up. You said translates to winning. It's like the running game in 23 doesn't if you look at the numbers, doesn't really So that style didn't work. So I just want to bring that point. He translates to winning, but again, you have to have a limit on it because it became too predictable. The two at a time, like the whole 2,000-yard stuff's nice, but it's actually a bad thing if they're shooting for that. You're going to be bounced in the first round. This team could actually, like Tyreek can have like 1,300 yards, 14, and this team could actually have less talent, but the talent they brought in, and if they become more of a power running team, could actually be better. And they want to have it's not so much bipolar, not like 4-5-2, then 2-5, right. More steady and better in December and January. But Jason, I know you had something on the wide receivers.
Yeah, no, I'm going to stick to the theme of that undrafted free agent crop that they brought in. They brought in a lot of guys who were projected to be drafted. Now they have 4 wide receivers in camp. They're all very different, I feel like, and we're looking for that 5th spot of the wide receiver room. Is it Taj Washington, IR rookie from last year, or is it one of those 4 undrafteds from this year?
Yeah, I want to see what Taj Washington can do. He's an interesting guy. We just didn't get enough of a look at him last season, but I'm very intrigued by him. And look, the Dolphins, they've got some work to do with these receivers as far as familiarity. Tua's not really familiar with any of them. He got up to speed with Jonnu last year. And let me say this also about Mike McDaniel. My hat is off to him for going to that dink and dunk offense second part of the year. I know he didn't want to. That's very anti-Mike McDaniel, but he went to the most effective way to move the ball. That had to be hard for him to do, but my hat is off to him. And so kind of my point here is that was offensive recognition. I thought that was learning, that was applying what that we can't move the ball the same way. So we have to do something different. And I think that could work for the receivers, that everybody is not Tyreek and Waddle. And so how do you adjust your game to fit their skill set and make you a tougher offense to defend? I think whether we're talking about O-line, play calling, run game, whatever, you've got to make this a more diverse offense, a tougher offense to defend. And so we'll see, Jason, about this group of receivers. But I do want to see what Taj can do. I'm excited about Malik. We'll see about NWI. But as he gets into camp and his role gets more defined and you put on the pads and he can show some physicality, I think that his role gets more clearly defined also.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody watching. Almost 200 people. Guys, thank you. Hit that like button. Hit that little bell. Thank you, guys. We love it. The chat is live tonight. And if you're watching anywhere, come on, hang out with us on YouTube. We appreciate it, guys. All right, Perk. You talk about offense, the tight end position. I'm kind of confused where they're going here, right? I guess the Darren Waller stuff, I don't expect. Like, I don't have high expectations. If he's got the physical tools. I don't know a guy who left he's not the guy who played for the Raiders in 2019 and 2020. Right. People need to get that out of their head. He left. He had a rap career. By the way, his music's pretty good. I've heard it. I've heard it's not bad, right? Yep. Is it better? It's better than some of these previous athletes I've been hearing.
Hey, I don't know. I don't know where he ranks with.
Bring it down, Chris. Bring it down.
Teron Armstead and Duke Riley, right? The Dolphins have had a couple now. Even Melvin Ingram put something out, I think, after early in 2024. That's right, baby. Melvin Ingram no longer on the team, but he was still producing music. They're a very talented team, so I don't know. I don't know where it ranks. I don't know where Waller ranks in the Armstead, Duke Riley, Melvin Ingram countdown. But the dude, he's got some skills, though. He's got some skills.
What about Moreland Greenwood? Ultimate.
I know.
No one's touching my Greenwood.
The Syracuse.
That's nice.
Former third round.
That's Long Island power right there.
Former third-round pick out of Syracuse, right? Morlon Greenwood. Man.
He was there when I was covering the first.
That's a nice little one you pulled out, Jason. I haven't heard that name. I haven't heard that name in a long time, Mr. Morlon.
Why do
I feel like we got a little like American Idol judging here? We're going like
I know. Exactly.
Who's Simon Cowell on here? Is that me?
I'll be the bad guy, like Scarface said. I'll say this about the tight end position. I'm not stressing it too much because they haven't had, in the McDaniel era, Jonnu Smith was the outlier, right? Gesicki didn't put up the big numbers. Durham Smythe didn't put up the big numbers. They put up respectable numbers, but they didn't put up the Jonnu numbers. They weren't close to 1,000 yards. So if Waller doesn't do that, and if they're missing that element, I'm not that worried because for the first 2 years, they didn't have that element. That was a bonus last year. Obviously, you want Waller to be 1,000-yard guy, but you can't expect that. He's 32 years old. He was out of the game last year. He's not familiar with Tua and everything that's going to be thrown at him. So, we'll see what they can do with the tight end position. We'll see if Pharaoh Brown and Julian Hill can fulfill their roles as the blocking tight end, and if Waller can come in and show some hands and show an ability to stretch the field a little bit. I think that's a bonus, but I think really Julian Hill and Pharaoh Brown are where I'm looking, and obviously they're not receiving tight ends, but that's kind of where I'm looking for the most production out of that position.
Yeah, Colin Prince is on fire now. Eddie Moore,
I'm still going over.
Eddie Moore.
Hey, two things, Eddie Moore. Anquan Bolden and don't meet Eddie Moore in a bar. He'll lose the fight, right? when your rookie linebacker gets his ass, in a bar fight.
Right.
This ain't
not the right.
He ain't it.
That's not the right guy.
He ain't it.
I love it, baby.
I mean, do we know if Channing Tindall's been in the bar? Any?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I kind of feel he might be one of those bar fight losers. Shout out to Channing. I'm sure he's a great kid, a great guy, but
right.
He's creeping into that Eddie Moore territory there.
He is. Hey, I'll say this though: the inside linebackers are good. I don't know about their hip hop skills or their fighting ability.
Oh yeah. I like
with Dodson Brooks. and Britt and who am I forgetting? Who is the other backup they got?
Willie Gay.
Where's Willie Gay? Where do you see Willie Gay? Where do you see Willie Gay this year? Inside or a little? Because he has some pass rush stuff too. Like he played a little bit on the edge. Who did he play for last? The Saints, right? Was it the Saints?
Yeah.
I remember he played a little bit on the edge. Did you see him as primary backup? We don't talk about the linebackers because they kind of brought back kind of status quo there. Not a lot of noise around that group. But do you see Gay as the backup there?
I don't know. With Dodson and Brooks, I think inside linebacker is probably their best, deepest position on the team. And it's a low-profile position in today's NFL, right? The off-ball linebacker, the inside linebacker. You're not getting sacks that kind of stuff. But the Dolphins are loaded. They are loaded with Britt and Gay and Dotson and Brooks. They are loaded at that position. And I think that you do have some position versatility. If you need a little help on the outside, maybe one of those guys can fill a role for a few snaps or some situations right there. But I'm excited that when you talk about the front seven and what you can do with that front seven and the versatility and the role they have to play, and having Anthony Weaver in charge and the success in run defense. Last year, the tight ends had success on these guys as receivers. We'll see if that gets tightened up this year. But I'm excited about those inside backers, man. I think they can do some damage.
Yeah, agreed. Quickly, going back to the tight end position, you kind of almost got to look at it as two groups, like blockers, catchers, like the Julian Hills, and then we have the Darren Waller, Tanner Connor guys. How do you expect them? Like, I know one of the reasons that everybody thought they got off Joe News because they wanted to go to a different look. They wanted more of a blocker, pure blocker there. Do you see them going more 11 personnel, 12 personnel? How do you see them using the tight end? I even thought you could use, like, if you're going to do 12 personnel, like kind of put Darren Waller in the slot and still run. Like, you can run some outside stuff, because even though he's not a great blocking tight end, he's just a notch above Gesicki, as far as a blocker.
Yeah.
But, like, he's still big, 6'6", 250.
Right.
How do you kind of see them utilizing the tight end this year? That's one thing I can't get a read on. Maybe that's something we got to wait till the preseason starts.
Yeah, I think that's going to develop, and as they see what they've got, because look, we know that last year the run game fell off once Austin Jackson got injured, but it also fell off once Alec Ingold got injured, which was around that same time. And so I don't know what they're going to ask/demand out of that tight end. Do you want more of a receiver like you had with Jonnu? Or, when you've got Ingold and Austin Jackson back there and you're trying to establish a run presence, do you want to rely more on Julian Hill and Pharaoh Brown for that physicality? We're going to have to see, right? We're going to have to see if NWI can fill a role as a number 3 receiver, or Malik Washington, or do you need Waller out there to do more of the receiving situationally or on first and second down? I think that's yet to be established, but to me, you probably need more of the blocking tight end than the receiving tight end this year.
So we're here.
We heard the word blocking.
I know.
We got to talk offensive line. We're
here.
Let's do it,
people. We're here. Everybody, come on over now. I want to see some more likes, and we're talking online.
Multi-phased question here. Obviously, the elephant in the room is the replacement for Teron Armstead and that second year player, second rounder, Patrick Paul. And there's 2 new guards, rookie Jonas Avayanea and free agent signee James Daniels. How do you feel about Patrick Paul, and where do you want or see the guards placing? Which side, and all that good stuff?
I see James Daniels to go guard first. I see James Daniels on the right side playing with Austin Jackson, which, could make the left side vulnerable, right? If you have Jonah, who is a rookie, and Patrick Paul, who is unproven, that could make you vulnerable on that side. But I think that, both of the guards are – Jonah is more comfortable on the left side. I think James Daniels is more comfortable on the right side. We'll see if that switches up, but that's how I'm looking at it initially. Obviously, James Daniels limited to 4 games for Pittsburgh last year with that Achilles. We'll have to see what his health situation is. They can afford to bring him along slowly in training camp, and there's no big rush to get him there. Patrick Paul is wait and see. He struggled a little bit, but everybody's going to struggle against Myles Garrett, right? So, he's had some struggles. I'm very wait and see on Patrick Paul. There are question marks on that O-line, right, at both guard positions, because you've got a rookie and a guy coming off an injury at left tackle. Patrick Paul is unproven at right tackle. We'll see if Austin Jackson can stay healthy. I think he can. I like Aaron Brewer there at center. He gives you what you need. He's a little undersized, but he's athletic, and he's got the right attitude. When you talk about culture, I think Aaron Brewer is one of those guys. He's a headhunter out there. Now, he's small in stature, but he's aggressive. He's physical, and he looks to do some damage. And I like that attitude. I like that mentality. We'll see if James Daniels has it. I think Jonah should have it. Patrick Paul is very much a nice guy on and off the field. Austin Jackson, I think he can have some attitude. But look, to me, with that O-line, what can you do to get the best out of them? And I think it's doing some run blocking, having some aggressive run plays, not as much pass protection, but let them get that attitude. Let them get that mentality. Let them help Mike McDaniel as a play caller, help take some pressure off of Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. The depth on the O-line is very shaky. This is probably the worst. Well, it is the worst depth of the McDaniel era. Liam Eichenberg is your best backup. I know. I don't even mean to bring up a bad name there. I know.
But you know what's funny?
Jason is like,
you know what's funny? If Liam is your backup, that's what a backup in the NFL looks like. Is Liam Eichenberg?
It is. I would like to see, some Isaiah Wynn, Kendall Lamb quality backups. That I think would help. True. But look, right. Liam has started, I don't know what the number is, 52 of 60 games or whatever the number is, but you're right. He's a guy who you're going to put him in there. He won't be lost. Now, you're not going to get, a guy who grades out at 90, but he's not going to be lost. It's not going to be unfamiliar. And plus, Liam can still get into somebody's head, right? He can still do the trash talking and get into some guy's head and maybe make him jump off sides. Right, exactly. Right. Get him upset and get him to get inside his head a little bit. Every little bit helps. Yeah. But look, I think there are things you can do to help this O-line. You got a good O-line coach in Butch Berry, right? I think he's the right guy for the job, as he showed last year. So I'm wait and see on O-line, but I think with some help from the run game and some play calling help, they can be good enough to get you to the playoffs. Can they win a playoff game for you, be an integral part? I don't know about that yet, but I do think they can be good enough to help you win 10, maybe 11 games.
Do you like this O-line better than last year's O-line as a whole?
No, because you don't have to run, and you did have the experience with Austin Jackson last year, and say whatever you want about Rob Jones and Liam, but I think that I have more faith in the veterans, and having Teron in there is just huge, just to kind of settle things down and be able to do things that an ordinary guy can't do. Teron is a Pro Bowl caliber vet. He knows how to compensate when his right knee needs to be replaced. He knows how to compensate when, his shoulder isn't good, when maybe the left guard beside him isn't playing up to snuff. Teron can do a lot of stuff. He can do so much for you. So no, I don't feel as good, but I don't think the offensive line is going to be garbage. I'll tell you this, if we're looking at position groups, I feel better about the O-line than I do about the secondary, and that's because of those two boundary corner spots, and you do have Minka back there.
I agree there wholeheartedly. And when I'm looking at jobs, people fighting for jobs, who's going to win that swing tackle job? Because, Kendall Lamb's gone. So, if it's a sixth man, is it an undrafted free agent? Is it someone off the scrap heap in a couple of weeks? What are your thoughts on that swing guy?
Man, you got to look Keon Smith, Ryan Hayes. I don't know where Larry Borum fits in best, if he's inside or outside at this point. But you got to look at Larry Borum also, right? As somebody who's a candidate for that job. But Jason, I don't know yet. I don't know really those backup O-line positions. Liam could play backup center or backup guard. But, the swing tackle, man, I have no idea yet. That's something we're going to find out again in training camp. It's going to be interesting in camp. How much work does Patrick Paul get? Because he needs the work. But in camp, that's usually the backups who get those reps. We know he'll get extensive work in the joint practices, but in the 3 preseason games and the regular practices, what do they do with Patrick Paul? What do they want to see from Patrick Paul, and how many reps will he be out there? That's going to be very, very interesting. How do you handle him? Is he a normal starter, or is he kind of like a plus backup where he's going to get more daily reps than most of your other starters?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Paul. To me, he's got to get every rep. It's kind of like, it's kind of like when Khalil Ware goes to the summer league for the Heat. Right. You got to send him to the summer league. He had a good rookie year. He's got to go to the summer league. Right. He's got to take every rep. I mean, or else who are you giving it to? Keon Smith? I mean,
right.
Here's the thing. My opinion on this O-line. I like it inside better. I'm a huge Savianea guy. I'm excited. I think he changed the tone of that offensive line. I think Paul will be good enough. I hated the pick, Chris, when it happened. But he's a nice kid. He looks a little slimmer too, right? He slimmed down.
Oh yeah.
And he's just he had some bad technical stuff on film in college. It continued in the pros, but I just think he's so long. And I mentioned this over and over again. A guy that long doing 30+ reps on the bench, like he's got some rare traits. And I think he'll be fine. I think the O-line will be fine. I agree with you. My biggest question is, you said left to right side. Does it worry you, the chemistry? I think these three guys, there's what? 3 new starters. Yeah. I think you got to put them early to side. Okay, Jonah, you're going left. That's your partner, Patrick Paul. Follow him everywhere. Daniel's on the right side next to Austin Jackson. Let's go. I think they got to develop. They got to play a lot. I think they got to play a lot in preseason. I don't know Daniels with the injury, but do you worry a little bit about developing chemistry, because that is important?
A little bit, I do.
Yeah.
But what I really think is, you've got to figure out where these guys are best. And like you said, Jonah, are you staying on the left side and James Daniels on the right side? I think that's what we're going to see. But for me, I was thinking earlier that maybe you have James Daniels at left guard, because then he can help out Patrick Paul as a veteran, and you don't have the 2 young guys on that same side. And you put Jonah over there beside Austin Jackson. But really, again, you can have help with Alec Ingold and with Pharaoh Brown and with Julian Hill when it comes to technique and scheme and how you want to use these guys and who you want to have help them. It's not – Patrick Paul is on an island, definitely, but he's there's some help. There's some help out there. So I want to see – what scheme wise, what they determine, how much help do these guys need, and is it just against the Myles Garretts of the world, or is it against everybody? And then how do you proceed from there?
Yeah, in fairness to him, he struggled against some tough situations.
I think Danielle Hunter might have been one of the ones he struggled against off the top of my. But come on, Myles Garrett and Danielle Hunter. There's not a whole lot of shame in that.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the pass rush. I think that's going to be important. I'm expecting, again, we did a show, Jason and I'm expecting big things unlocked from Chop Robinson. His second half, I saw little things that he unlocked. I think Chubb's got to be commended, and Phillips probably coaching this kid along with the D-line coach and Weaver. He unlocked some stuff that to go along with that first step and explosion, that one special power he has. I'm expecting big things out of Chop.
Yeah, Chop.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm expecting some big things out of Chop. Yeah. Let's just say 8 or 9 sacks. I don't know if I can predict double digits for him, but he's going to have some pressure. He's going to have to be double teamed on occasion, right? I'm expecting Chop to cause some major headaches for some opponents. And you talk about that quick first step, and Chop will tell you one of the best things that he did was he moved out a little wider, and that gave him the option of the inside or outside move. And that's great awareness from a rookie, right? To understand the game at that level. And you've got coaches helping you, but to understand yourself and the game at that level, I think that really says a lot about Chop. And you see that same football IQ out of Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. So this is with these guys, it's not just the physical. I think that they're smart football players. I think that they know how to figure some things out. And so if you can get some health out of those edge rushers, that is an element that is far reaching, right? It is going to help those cornerbacks. It is going to give Anthony Weaver some options. You guys remember the NASCAR pass rush that the Giants had back in the day, right? And so you could have Chop and Jalen and Bradley Chubb out there together, putting pressure on the quarterback. Second down, third down. You don't have to wait till third down. Look, and because Chubb and Jalen Phillips are pretty good against the run, they can set the edge. So you do have second down options with this pass rush. So I'm excited about this pass rush. I want to see what they can do. As you said, George, we'll see what happens to Willie Gay. Maybe he's a number 4 option out there on the outside. We'll see who was our guy last year who came on in training camp? Went to
Quentin Bell.
Quentin Bell. Right. We'll see if he can be a situational guy. If he can, if he can do some stuff. But pass rushers, you do have some options. It starts with health with Phillips and Chubb. But if you get that, you could be potentially loaded at that spot and have a lot of versatility and options for Anthony.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned with Chop, because part of the show we did, I really focused on his second half. And the space that he created more space for himself, and you have to. I mean, that first step off the edge is like even better than Cam Wake. It's 99 percentile. It's unbelievable to watch out for him. And so what he does, he's already got the tackle going back, and then what he did is he added, I'm going to fake inside, go out. I'm going to show hands, take away hands. Then I'm just going to fake and then straight speed to power bull. It was just. You can't, when he has that one tool and then you add those things, I just expect big things. I also like Grayson Murphy a little bit. I hope he comes this year. But so we're expecting big things out of the pass rush this year.
Yeah, I think Grayson Murphy, he's a guy who really flashed in OTAs and minicamp. And he's one of those guys where he gets his roster spot on special teams. And then if there's an injury or if there's a situation, the dude makes plays in practice. You know, he's kind of like a Tanner Connor in that way. You notice him. You notice Grayson Murphy in OTAs and in mini camp and in training camp. And we'll see what he's able to do this year if he's able to take it to that next level. But that's a good name to throw out. I'm glad you said him. Yeah. He was a guy who really flashed in OTAs and mini camp. He could make some plays, you know, granted it's out of pads, but again, you look for awareness, for learning, for attack angles, kind of that kind of knowledge. He kind of seems to know what he's capable of doing.
I have Murphy on my initial 53 2 times over, the OTA version and the training camp version. So people are hoping that he, you know, rebounds from the injury from last year. But speaking of rebounding or coming on back into the fray here, we got Minka 2.0. So he's back. He's a Dolphin again. What are we expecting? Can we expect a shade of the All-Pro, or what are we looking at?
I would think so. Look, Minka is one of the Dolphins who's going to talk tomorrow. He'll be on the podium, so we'll hear directly from Minka tomorrow. I'm expecting Minka as a guy with something to prove, right? You know, there's a lot of guys who have stuff to prove for different reasons. We talked about Tyreek having something to prove. You know, the $58 million, and he's still a valuable part of an offense. Minka is kind of that same way that, you know, you've heard some of the Pittsburgh people saying, what is it, one interception in the last 2 years or whatever the number is, and they say that Minka might be on the way down. If I'm Minka, I'm like, look, I'm a borderline Hall of Fame guy. I'm going to show y'all I'm still Minka Fitzpatrick. Like I'm still in the house. I can still make plays. I can still be an effective All-Pro, Pro Bowl level defensive player who's got some versatility. I think we'll see Minka as kind of the deep safety initially, and then we'll see how Iffy Melifonwu or Ashton Davis or whoever, what their skill set is and what Anthony Weaver is able to do with them. But I would expect that Minka is going to be a very motivated, valuable piece of that defensive puzzle. And I think he's going to have a big year. Definitely, I think a Pro Bowl year. I don't know about all pro, but I think Minka is going to be motivated enough, and we will be able to use him smartly enough that he'll have a Pro Bowl bounce back season.
Another battleground position for the number 2 and number 3. You know, Weaver loves to kind of rotate and use those safeties on the same time. I'm a big fan of Dante Trader Jr. Has he been making, I hear, professionalism, work ethic, quarterback of the secondary, cerebral, all that fun stuff. What's the lowdown so far on Dante Trader Jr.?
He's looked good. He's looked good back there. You know, and this is a situation of we need to see him in pads. He looked good in OTAs and minicamp, but he's going up against a couple of guys who you'd have to say, right, Iffy Melifonwu is the favorite to start there back there, and then you've got Ashton Davis. But I think that he's a guy that you want to see what he can do once the pads come on. Is he aggressive? Is he smart? Can he defend? How is he against the run? How is he against the pass? So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they have with him. I'm a little skeptical on the low-round draft picks, not only because they're low-round draft picks, but because we know that Chris Greer's drafts fall off after the third round. So I want to see, Marshall and Schrader and Phillips and Biggers. I want to see if they can kind of break that Chris Greer mold of, first and second round picks. And I know Cam Smith and Liam are in that second round group. Give me a little love for Chris Greer.
Cam Smith?
I know.
It's bad when we haven't mentioned Cam Smith once on this.
Yeah, that's not good.
I'm not expecting much on the low. Bo Kemper kind of let it slip where he was lining up in OTA.
Yeah.
So
it's and you know what? And Cam is a nice kid, which I know nobody gives a damn about. But he's a nice kid. I get pounded on Twitter when I bring that up. I don't think he's just out there to collect a paycheck, but I would like to see better body language from him, more aggression, be more engaged. I think he loves the game, but I don't always see that. So I would like to see that from him.
So Vic's like showing. Is Vic showing is Fangio showing the? I know this hurts, but like,
right?
We're always on the wrong side of it. We're always on the wrong side.
Right. Fangio is putting a pair of handcuffs out there again, right? Cam said he's unlocked and freed. I think Vic has got some handcuffs.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Stanley Cup tour. When you want to see the Super Bowl trophy? Yeah.
That's right. Exactly.
Oh man. Yeah. So you expect Melifonwu to start next? It's funny. I'm glad you mentioned that Minka's going to talk tomorrow. Because, does anybody know what Minka feels about coming back here?
No.
I haven't heard anything about that.
Have not, and it's funny because you know how good the Dolphins are about the social media.
Oh, they just selling that hope. Yeah,
right. We haven't seen Minka walking into the facility, signing any. There's nothing to sign, but we haven't seen him working out. We haven't. Usually, there's some hype video out there, and it's very interesting. It's been very interesting, and I've gotten a lot of questions about it. Has Minka reported? Is he happy about this? And we'll find out tomorrow. We'll find out what he has to say tomorrow.
Shout out to the 300 people watching on various platforms. We appreciate it. Make sure you guys come over to our YouTube, give us a thumb up, help support the channel. Again, we're with Chris Perkins here. We're wrapping up pretty soon with Perk. He's Dolphins Columnist. He's been covering this team. Nobody knows the Dolphins more than Perk. He's with the Sun Sentinel. Okay. Let's end it sort of with this question. I want to get some names of guys. We always talk. We talk about the obvious. We'll all throw a couple names. We'll start with you, Jason. A couple names of guys, or Perk. You're the guest. Or you want me to go first? Yeah, I love this. I'll go first. Okay.
You just went three reads right there.
Right. And I'm breaking down at left tackle, so you gotta get rid of this ball, baby.
I hit the third read. Nobody can say I can't process and read defense. All right. Okay. Couple guys who kind of could surprise us out of nowhere. I mentioned one kind of in Grayson Murphy.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a couple. Isaiah Johnson, I like. I'm dreaming on the size. Yep. I'm dreaming on it. Yep. The length and the size. And especially if you do some more press stuff this year. But a guy who I like, and Patrick McMorris, man, I like him. He's a guy, nobody really talks about him. I noticed him in preseason last year. He got hurt. I know he's not the most sexiest name, but I just think this guy is a good football player. And like Aminka Fitzpatrick, him learning from Aminka, I think they're almost the same size. I'm not saying that they don't have the same ability, obviously, but learning from him, I just like his IQ, his intelligence. He seemed like a yard ahead. I like players who maybe lack, like Dante Trader Jr. is one of these guys that is always a yard or two ahead. Zach was the best at that. Remember Zach? Zach, he would 3 yards. How's he he ran a 4.7, 4.8, but he was 3 yards ahead of the play, and that's why he was faster than. But let's go example, Channing Tindall. He's 3 yards back of the play. You know what I mean? And he runs a 4.4. So you on football terms, I just like Big Morris. He's a guy. I don't know what you've seen out of him, Perk. And then I guess Perk, you can go next. But he's a guy. I don't know. He's one of those guys I have a feeling about.
He seemed to show a little bit more as the season went on, special teams wise. He wasn't out there from scrimmage a lot, but he was a guy who would always kind of stick his nose in there, and he would kind of stand out to you on special teams film. So yeah, I want to see it's getting to be a very crowded position.
Yeah. It's on the upside. He's on an upside play, but I just think as a guy who's going to stick around and be. You can see him as there's sexier names, but hopefully one of you guys will mention them. But all right, Perk, give me a couple of guys you think nobody's talking about that we can look back in late August and say, wow, he's interesting.
I already mentioned Storm Duck. I want to see what he can do. I'm excited about Storm. Look, I want to see what these two young running backs can do. Jalen Wright and Ollie Gordon II. They have so much potential if they're used correctly, if they can run the ball effectively in their role. We all know HN is running back number one, but again, you need to be able to impose your will on some teams in many ways. The run game should be one of those ways. So I want to see what those two guys can do. And look, I am looking at Malik Washington. I'm a big Malik fan. I like his toughness. I like his skill set, both special teams and from scrimmage. And I will give you a couple of other names that we're not talking about. Special teams, right? We've got a new special teams coordinator. And so we've got to see what's going on there, and we've got to see what's going on with Bobby Slowick. A couple of coaches that I want to see what is their impact going to be on those units, because you need those units to be impactful. Special teams, and as far as Bobby Slowick and this passing game, what are you bringing to the table that's different? So a couple of coaches and a few players there for me.
I'll dip again, like I tend to do, into the undrafted free agent world. And there's two guys that I would love to see make this team. Andrew Armstrong, 6'4", big play receiver, vertical threat. He has a terrific catch radius. He can kind of go up and moss the defensive backs, so to speak. But if we're going with special teams, Perk, and I love how you say that, because that's a third phase of the game that is so important, especially for the Dolphins. Eugene Asante. Undersized linebacker who's fast and athletic as can be. Played a little ace, on special teams in college, 700-plus snaps in special teams. So if this guy punches his ticket as a special teamer, he's going to make some hits and maybe even get up on the linebacking world in development.
Yeah, good one, Jason. I was thinking about he's a missile. Straight north to south, he's a missile. Yeah. All right, well, so Perk, we'll wrap it up with you here. We appreciate your time and everybody who joined us. Quickly, your thoughts. You said you had a feeling a 9-win going into camp. Is that where you're at 9 wins right now with your feeling?
I am. I'm at 9 wins right now. We'll see if that gets increased or decreased. But what I see happening right now is, Tua. I don't think you need 17 games from Tua. I think if he plays 14 or 15, let's be more realistic. What happens with starting quarterbacks nowadays in the league and Tua's injury history, I think you could be a 9-win team with Tua playing 14 or 15 games if you get better play out of the corners, if you get a better run game, if you perform better on the road, if you perform better against playoff caliber teams. I could see 10 wins. I could possibly see 11 wins if Chubb and Phillips stay healthy and Chop is an impact player. That defensive front seven, I think, could be a over-the-top type of a unit to me. That kind of, you kind of thought they could do something, but damn, they really are doing something, right? That Zach Sealer is doing it, and Kenneth Grant is doing it, and Jordan Brooks is doing it, and your depth at that inside backer position shows up. Your depth on the defensive front shows up. Anthony Weaver's coaching shows up. So, I'm thinking 9 wins right now. And look, even if this season goes to hell, I don't see them worse than 7 wins. You won 8 last year. You won 9 2 years ago with Tua missing time. So I think the floor is 7. I think the ceiling, the realistic ceiling is probably – the realistic optimistic ceiling is 11. The more realistic ceiling is 10. But I'm
somewhere in the middle of that
right now. Yeah.
I've always said Tua is a floor raiser. He's going to – when you have Tua, you have a floor. But again, we're it's funny. The Heat are kind of coming to Dolphins now a little bit. This stuck in the middle thing. You know what I mean? There's so many. there's so many parallels, and I was thinking about this today. Somebody brought up that point. I said, man, I forget who it was. I would like to give him credit, but it's true, and I thought of this. It's that stuck in the middle thing. But I said that was the last thing. But one thing I forgot to ask you, we didn't mention, is Kenneth Grant. They're relying on. I'm a huge fan, but how does he look to you? Obviously, the pads got to come on, but just the eyeball test.
Good. Him and Savia Naya both look good. Going to Kenneth Grant specifically, we're going to see should they have taken Tyler Warren, the tight end who from Penn State who went to Indy at pick number 14. Should they have taken Tyler Warren at 13 for the Jonnu Smith people and the Darren Waller and but I do think that Kenneth Grant is going to be good. How fast and how good will he be? We can't expect a Christian Wilkins, Calais Campbell type performance from him as a rookie at that same position, but we can expect him to learn kind of like Chop Robinson did and be definitely a more effective player at the end of the season than he was at the start. They need immediate impact from Kenneth Grant. They need run-stopping ability from Kenneth Grant, and they need him to be able to take advantage of the attention that's going to be paid to Zach Sealer. Can you take advantage of that and make some plays or make them respect you early in the season? I'm thinking Kenneth Grant will be effective. It's how early will he be effective? That's the thing that I don't know.
Got to just bring another name back from the blast from the past. I see a little Tim Bowens from the.
Well, if he's Bowens, that's money, right?
That's what I'm hoping.
That's another first round pick. Yeah,
that's that country
Rookie
strength.
Of the year. Right, exactly. Country strong, baby.
Oh yeah. If he's anything like Timbo, that we're in for a good time. Yeah. Well, Perk, when you're having a good time, time flies. An hour and 60. We appreciate your time. Before you go, Perk, tell everybody what you got, what's coming up, any articles you got, what's coming up with you and the Sun Sentinel.
Well, I'll be writing every day this week, and I know Dave Hyde and David Feronas are probably going to do more Minka tomorrow, but I'll see what's left over. I'll be writing, every day this week, and look, I'm definitely going to hit the offensive line. I'm definitely going to hit Zach Wilson. We'll get the Dolphins deep dive with Perk podcast kicked up probably next week. Me and David Feronas. I appreciate being on here. Thanks for having me. I'll come on anytime. Y'all let me know. I love talking Dolphins, man. Yeah.
Oh, we appreciate it. Pleasure, we got to get some. Yeah, we have you on. Maybe we have a little collab with the Dolphins with you and with Feronas. Have a little fun time us four.
Yeah, let's do it.
Again, Perk, thank everybody. We got a bunch of things coming up. Keep notified. Keep watching our Twitter and our socials to see what shows we got coming up. Of course, we'll be live next Monday, but we could have some things pop up before then with the season and training camp. Stick with us. We got a lot of fun things in the work and in the bag to release to you guys for this season. So stick with us here at the Fins Faithful. Again, for Jason Sarney, for Perkins, for myself, Fins up, guys. We're out. Until next time, we'll see you. Fins up.
Fins up.